Eric Bolin is with us and has been with us many times throughout the course of this season from New York Newsday, covers the New York Yankees, and joins us here on Big Board Sports on 104.5 A Team ESPN Radio. Eric, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you today?
We are fantastic. And is that about right last night with Tanaka, great starting pitching, very good defense, and then you get the one big blast from Greg Bird, and here we go on to Game 4.
Yeah, it was kind of the formula. I mean, not a lot of 1-0 games, but when they kind of burst out of the gate to that 38-23 start and were the surprise of baseball, or one of the surprises of baseball early on, this is what you kind of saw out of the Yankees. The young guys hitting home runs, not Greg Bird because he'd been hurt most of the season, but and the type of performance, by the way, out of Masahiro Tanaka that going into the season, and I know Roger, when we talked in spring training and right at the start of the season, he was supposed to be the one sure thing for the starting rotation. It didn't turn out that way, but boy, did he turn back the clock, not that far, but turn it back to the first 3 years as a Yankee when he was their unquestioned ace. I mean, altogether, look, that was a classic postseason game in a different way than Game 2 was a classic postseason game. Obviously, that was all big hits and home runs and that type of a game. Last night was a different type of classic.
No doubt it was. Brilliant performance by Tanaka last night. And now, weather permitting, maybe you can update that, what you're hearing forecast-wise. But Trevor Bauer go on 3 days rest. Luis Severino on 5 days rest. Hopefully, mentally, he's cleared his mind after what happened to him in Game 1. And the Yankees maybe can force a Game 5 with a win tonight. Your thoughts on Severino and what's the forecast look like where you're at right now for tonight?
Anybody with an iPhone can get the same forecast I have. It's, chance of rain, so we'll see. Severino, I think he's going to throw a good game. I don't want to say that there was an overreaction to his 1/3 of an inning performance. Obviously that's historically bad. You only last a third of an inning as a starting pitcher. But the fact that it seemed like the Yankees kind of were spooked by that is I don't want to say odd, but look at what this guy did the entire season. For the most part, he was absolutely terrific. He was there without question, ace of the staff the entire second half of the year. I mean, he put himself, and maybe people forgot this very quickly after his bad wild card start, he put himself in the Cy Young conversation right behind Corey Kluber and Chris Sale. In the second half of the season, it wasn't even close who was better between Chris Sale and Luis Severino. So, I know that there's trepidation from a lot of people going into tonight's game. I don't necessarily share that. It doesn't mean that I think automatically the Yankees are going to win the game, but I think Luis Severino is going to throw very well tonight.
Eric, Chris Honorato here with Roger as well. Interested to get your take on the reaction of Yankees fans last night when Joe Girardi was announced. This isn't a trap question. I'll give you my feelings on it. Yeah, he should have challenged the call, but he didn't put the other two guys on base. He didn't give up the grand slam. He didn't give up the Jay Bruce homer that tied. I mean, so many things went on, and I almost likened it to the Bartman play. Like, the Cubs had to blow so many other things in that game to actually lose it. What was your reaction when Girardi was announced and then Yankees fans booed him?
Well, Chris, I'd first like to react to what you just said because I'm glad that you said it. What we do covering sports, I think we sometimes go with the most simplistic explanation possible because we can fit it into a 140 character tweet. And so, I always object when something that's incredibly complex gets boiled down to something so simple, sort of like, for example, Aaron Judge starts the second half of the season horribly, so it has to be the home run derby that corrupted him, right? We went through that nonsense. Joe Girardi didn't lose that game on Friday night for the Yankees, as you pointed out, Chris. People make it sound like it was fait accompli. That Francisco Lindor was going to do something that has only happened, a small handful of times in the last 50 years in the postseason, which is a grand slam. It's not like it's automatic that you're going to hit a grand slam. So, and then Jay Bruce, like you said, has to hit the home run, and Torreyes getting picked off,
right.
In the later innings after that. Look, was it a horrible mistake? Did it extend the inning? Did it give Lindor a chance to be the hero? Did it get the crowd and the Indians back in the game? It did all of those things. There's no question. But for him to just wear that loss as the sole reason that they had that collapse is ridiculous. And so anyway, Chris, I'm glad that you pointed that out. Now, his reaction afterwards didn't help his cause either. And I think a lot of it, had he said on Friday night what he said on Saturday, which was, you know what, I screwed up, I made a mistake. I think the reaction from fans, it would have been fervent, because it always is going to be in that regard, and it would have been a lot of criticism in the media, because it's just the nature of the beast. But I don't think it would have been as severe had Friday night after the game he just said, you know what, I made a mistake, I screwed up, which he did then say on Saturday. The reaction from the fans, I mean, I think it was predictable, and I don't mean that in a negative way. And Joe wasn't even all that upset about it. And first of all, he said it's not the first time, because remember when he came in as a player, he got booed at the welcome home dinner because he was replacing a popular Yankees catcher. So this has happened to him before. You don't expect it necessarily before a playoff game, but in this context, I think that you did. And a lot of us were talking before the game. It was not whether he was going to get booed or not. It was just how ferocious it was going to be, and it was pretty ferocious. But Girardi said, "Hey, look, I prepared my family for it. I prepared my wife for it. I told him, this is probably coming. Nobody likes to get booed, but fans are very passionate here." They see you as a reason why they want to win. If they see you as a reason that you didn't win, you're going to get booed. It's part of it. But we also saw the other part of that passion, which was a pretty hostile road environment from the Indians' perspective. And the other side of that was a very loud crowd last night that, the Yankees certainly helped push him to victory. So, Girardi, I'm sure internally it hurt a little bit. But it wasn't something that was unexpected either.
And I certainly don't think it's something that you fire Joe Girardi for, to be honest with you. What's the future of Girardi right now as manager of the Yankees? And really, from his standpoint, he may not want to come back. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he'll discuss it with his family, but there has been even Buster Olney this morning on ESPN, on Mike and Mike, talking about he does not think that Girardi will be back as the manager of the Yankees next season.
Yeah, that's one of those where, and I'll try to keep the answer short here, because I feel strongly both ways. I could see him saying, it's been 10 years and it's, the pressure cauldron of this job, and he's still a relatively young man, and, maybe there's some other things that he wants to do in baseball. All of those things are true. But, if he signs another 3 or 4 year contract, which you would expect that's what would be offered, if he fulfills that, he'll become the longest tenured manager in Yankee history. And, I think that might appeal to anybody in that position too. Plus the franchise, obviously the trajectory is pointing upward here with the amount of young talent that they currently have and have coming in a stock minor league system. So if ever there was a great time to be manager of the New York Yankees, this would be now. So if you put a gun to my head and said, which way do I lean? I say he's going to be back, because he has the backing of the owner. The general manager, I don't think one game just wiped out the fact that the team overachieved expectations this year. And Brian Cashman and Hal Steinbrenner aren't two guys that make knee-jerk reactions based on one bad decision. So I would put it this way. If Joe Girardi is not back next year, it's going to be because he decided he didn't want to come back.
Eric Boland, New York Newsday, covers the New York Yankees. We appreciate a few minutes here on Big Board Sports in Albany.
Sure thing, Roger. Chris, have a good afternoon.